Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is the Foreign Minister of Poland, Radek Sikorski. Welcome to the France 24 interview. I want to go back a year ago. You delivered an important speech in Berlin, in Germany. You were very worried about the situation of the euro, obviously, and you said, I will probably be the first Polish foreign minister to say so, but here it is. I fear German power less than I am beginning to fear German inactivity. A year later, what's your judgment on what Germany has done or not done?
Well, that was the moment when I think we were all worried about Euro's future. And I'm glad to say that since then, I don't say that it was connected with my speech, but since then action has been taken. Germany has now approved the fourth rescue package for Greece, and the European institutions that will in future discipline but also help countries in trouble have been put together. The European Central Bank has taken action, and a group of us, foreign ministers, have also proposed some ideas for the future institutional development of the EU. So in all these senses, I think it's been a good year, a year of ideas and of reform. We now need another anchor of stability, a multi-annual budget and the banking union. And then I think we'll have the makings of a more stable situation.
So do you think that the euro has been salvaged, that it's now there to stay?
You should ask bankers who say that there are still some serious imbalances on the books of the various institutions and banks. But I follow the spreads that various countries have to pay on their bonds, and they seem to have narrowed in the last few weeks. So at last, the markets are restoring their faith in the euro and in European economies.
Poland obviously has a peculiar position. It is not part of the euro, but it wants to join the euro. Has this experience maybe discouraged you? You said maybe we're better off outside of the eurozone.
We are actually members of the European Monetary Union. We just haven't launched the coins and the notes yet, and we are actually by treaty obliged to do so, but the date and the rate of exchange is not yet determined. And the crisis, I have to be frank with you, and the mismanagement of the crisis has made it harder for us to join. 5 years ago, we had 80% support for joining. Now it's 30%. And we now have to persuade our public that it is safe, and therefore some conditions have to be met. We have to be persuaded that the Eurozone has truly mended itself. And I expect that to happen in the next few years.
So when, realistically, do you think Poland will fully join the euro?
Well, I can't give you a date for obvious reasons, because that depends on what you in the Eurozone will do. Once you've sorted itself out, then we can make our judgment.
Right. But how will it be done in Poland? Will there be maybe a referendum? Will there be just a vote in parliament? How do you see things happening there?
There already was a referendum
Right.
on our accession treaty, which envisaged us joining. What's very important for us is the fate of economies such as Slovakia, Estonia, Latvia. These countries have reformed themselves without much fanfare, but much more effectively than some other countries. They had a serious dip, but they are now growing again. They've joined the euro since the beginning of the crisis, and they are growing. That's an argument in favor for us.
Do you think that Poland's position has been strengthened in a way by the crisis of the euro and the fact that your economy has been doing better, and that maybe you have more leverage when you talk to the French or the Germans, for that matter?
Well, it's true that our economy has grown cumulatively by 18% in the last 4 years, while the European average has been around 0. This is the result of the structural reforms we had carried out in the past, which some countries still have to carry out. The Germans carried them out 10 years ago. and some countries still have to do it, particularly as it regards the labor market.
Including France.
Of course, when you have a growing economy, it strengthens your position overall.
What's the status of the relationship with France? The French president went recently to Poland. There had been some tensions in the past, especially about how to manage the euro, whether Poland should have a say. Do you think things are improving?
Well, I think we won the argument on the fiscal pact, namely that as a country that will quite soon be a member of the Eurozone, we should be included in those arguments that concern its future architecture. And yes, you're right. President Hollande's visit in Poland was very successful. We showed him a tank that was brought recently from Afghanistan. It was one of the pieces of equipment supplied by France in 1920, which enabled us to defend Europe from the Bolshevik onslaught, which was a nice historical touch.
Which brings us to your relationship with Russia. Obviously, it has been a very sensitive relationship throughout history, especially the 20th century. How would you describe the relationship with Russia right now?
I would say that it's a working, pragmatic relationship that is quite brittle, because there are the historical issues, there are also the issues to do with the Smolensk crash of our presidential plane. We're still awaiting the return of the black boxes and the wreckage, but we're doing things together too. Russia is our second trading partner, and we've just established a local border traffic agreement with the Kaliningrad Oblast. As a result, 3 million Russians and Poles can visit each other without visas, which is a good thing.
Coming back to the crash which killed the president at the time, you think this has not been investigated properly, and that therefore Poland wants to be able to examine the evidence? Is that?
No, we've had our Polish investigation by the top experts in our country, which produced a comprehensive report.
Right. So what is it that you want from the Russians?
Well, because to establish causes of the accident is one thing. Our prosecutors are also looking to see if perhaps someone was guilty of perhaps incompetence or worse, and the prosecutors want the wreckage.
Very good. And so you're hoping to get it eventually?
Well, it's our property.
How would you describe Vladimir Putin? He's back in power. There's a lot of criticism in the West that he's cracking down on the opposition, on NGOs, on the press. Do you see Putin #2 as maybe more authoritarian than Putin #1?
Some developments in Russia are clearly worrying. We were never taken in by the distinctions that some people made between this leader and that leader.
Medvedev, Putin was the same
President
thing.
Putin was actually in the lead on improving relations with Poland. One has to admit that. And we had an important visit earlier this year of the Patriarch of Russia, which I think is important in laying the foundation for a spiritual reconciliation. So things are steadily improving with Russia.
But why do you think there is this more authoritarian rule, it seems, coming in Russia?
Well, in many countries which have natural resources such as oil, when the resources precede a stable democratic and law and order kind of system, they tend to make the politics worse.
In terms of the crisis in the Middle East, obviously there's a lot of talk about what's happening in Syria, and a lot of questioning what can be done, and also there again tensions between the West and Russia. How do you see this evolving in the next few weeks?
Well, in Syria, I think Russia could, if she chose, play a positive role, because Syria's chemical weapons arsenal was probably actually manufactured in Russia. So, number one, there is a historic responsibility. Number two, Russia still has personnel in Syria and lines of communication with the Assad regime. and says that she is equally concerned with us that this arsenal should not be used. So yes, I think we should all do our best to make absolutely sure that nobody even thinks about using these nasty weapons.
But besides the chemical weapons, there is clearly more support for the regime of Bashar al-Assad in Moscow than there is in Washington or in Paris. And do you think the Russians will hold on to Assad to the very end?
I have no idea, but it's a very complex situation, even more complicated, I would say, than Libya, because the ethnic groups are more clearly defined. And what's most worrying is that so many people have already died. And I don't think any of us have any quick fix solution for it.
Last question. Do you regret the lack of a strong European voice on foreign policy? We talked about Syria, Iran, Israel, Palestine. Many people say, where is Europe on those issues besides being divided?
I agree that in today's world we are all small or medium-sized countries. Not everybody realizes this. And only as Europe as a whole can we still maintain the rules and the institutions that were created by the West in general. And therefore we should stick together and we should speak with one voice. We've only just created the External Action Service. But, you know, it so often happens that the very people who demand a stronger European voice then make their own policy on particular issues. So that means a sort of discipline by member states to abide by the agreed positions and by the discipline that entails.
Okay, thank you very much, Radek Sikorski, for coming on the France 24 interview. Thank you for watching it. Stay tuned here for more news.